going to try to pop into the workshop, so just ignore me. That's why I'm saying hello now.
Good morning, this is Jane Lofton, and in just a few minutes, in like 9 minutes, I think, I'm going to be starting a workshop on social media for the CSLA 2018 conference. And I just wanted to say hello, but I will be doing screen sharing, so you won't see me the rest of the time. And there will be, at least for the live broadcast, about a 9-minute gap. So if you happen to be watching, just stand by and we'll be starting shortly. I hate when the screen looks like that. Hopefully it will fix itself in a moment. Well, that's not looking good. Let's try it again. Okay, I'm going to try screen sharing. Okay. If you tuned in for the live stream or the recording later, we will be starting shortly.
Oh,
hi.
Nice to meet
so
you.
nice to meet you.
We're competing, so
Yeah.
I don't get to see yours, and you don't get to come.
I know, that's a bummer. Well, I will see you tomorrow morning.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Have a great session.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
glad you're
nice
with
to meet you. I'll look forward to getting to visit with you.
Oh, good. Later. Yeah, great.
Oh, actually, we'll grab a photo. You need to get set up. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm good. I'm set up. Oh, it is? Minutes too. I can text you. What? I mean, I can give you a private message on Twitter, right? You looking for phone?
Right. So let's grab it. So have a great session. I'll see you later.
Somebody to see. Hey, be a part of that.
Oh, and
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
and
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Then I.
Yeah.
Or maybe some.
Yeah.
You know.
Hey, nice to meet you.
let's see.
Now that I know. So. On your facility.
It's funny, Terry told me she was. I saw you on the list, but Terry told me she was.
Terry, which Terry?
Terry Lai?
Maybe she, are you doing another session later?
I'm doing Twitter on
Maybe
Sunday,
that's-
but I think that was, so why doesn't this want to work? Hi, how are you?
Good.
How are you? Good, thanks. Thank you for doing those slides.
Oh, yes.
So good to see you.
It's super good to see you.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good to see
Yeah,
you.
you too.
Well, this clicker just doesn't seem to want to work. Oh, well. I've never been good at using a clicker. I did ask the guy if he could find a podium or a stack of books. I could, oh, thank you.
Because you want this up higher?
Yeah. Does anybody happen to have like books with them?
Kind of a.
She wants to.
I want to
stack
just
this up
prop
higher.
this up.
Oh, there you go.
We don't. We're all.
Thank you very much. Do not forget to get them when, and if there was like one or two more, I'd take those.
Okay, so I'm the facilitator. So do you have
Can we put a cushion underneath?
What do you think?
We put it all the way on the
We
bottom,
can try.
and it actually has a grip on it.
Is that working?
Yeah. I think we have a couple of minutes, but you will see I do have links to the slides. And I actually recommend getting your computer out and going to the slides if you'd like. bit.ly, bit.ly/CSL18SM is in social media.
No, I don't. In fact, I don't have anything. She said to show this. Only one that they're having a problem printing out. It was Kathy made it.
My friend, you're supposed to be doing your session.
I get this to you.
Okay, but did you sign up for 2 workshops or? 8 workshops?
And I'm gonna send these around.
I don't know.
Please grab a sticker, put it on your badge.
I don't know.
Go to that, the unconference site and add a breakout session idea, a SmackDown slide, tell other people to come.
No, I
And do you wanna start sharing?
Okay, sure.
So everybody grab one.
Did she say that there's a CSL?
I'm wondering why it's gray over there and it's my computer, huh?
Oh, that's the it's not one. It's a CSLA not one.
You're making your own work.
I can't read.
So, yeah, guys, if you have a computer, you want to get it out, and you want to, I really recommend going to the slides because while we won't have time to visit all the links during the session, I'll point out links to you that you're going to want to come back and follow. So the slides are kind of partly for during the session and partly for later.
Jason, do you mind if I make a copy of that second Mike Meglin's other copy here?
Absolutely, that's no problem. The only thing is, the reason I don't, sometimes people will like force copies so you can do that, but then I'm always afraid I'll make a change the last minute or find an error and change it later. So that's the only thing, is that I reserve the right to make changes. I have cards up here. I know that's gotten old-fashioned, but feel free to take a card, because once you have them, you know, what do you do with them? You got to get people to take them,
You
right?
scan them and put them in those.
Yeah.
I think she wanted to take one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Doesn't come down.
So I think it's time, Sue. Should I go ahead and start, or
Yeah, I can.
or I can introduce myself? Do you want me to do that? I can just do that. Anyway, thank you all for coming. I just want to warn you, I don't even know whether it's working properly, but I've set up a Google Hangout in order to record the first half of this session. I'm teaching a class for Rutgers University on emerging literacies, and I honestly don't know if any of my students will come, but I invited them to. So, and also by doing a Google Hangout on air, it's recorded for later. So just be aware, I'm only going to be doing that for the first half, because the second half actually is going to be like work session time. We don't need to record that, but I am recording the first half. So just be aware, I'm just doing the screen, but if you raise your hand, you say, make comment, have a question, it is being recorded, okay? So thank you so much for coming. Just before I get started, if you weren't in the room earlier, I'm sending around little stickers for the unconference. Please come tonight. Many people say it's the highlight of the conference. And so that's your sticker to talk it up to people, to go to that site and contribute a breakout session idea. The idea of the unconference is that you do the agenda, you do the topics you want, and also we have this fun smackdown and contribute a slide to it. So please do that. That's at 8:30 tonight. Also, if you're on Twitter or any other social media, I invite you to please tweet during the session. Take a picture. If someone took a picture of me, I wouldn't mind, because it's always fun to have one. And use the hashtag CSLA18 and also the for CSLA. The reason for the for is other people were using CSLA, so a few years ago we started that. And here is the link to the slides. Did everyone get that? Okay, I've got it on the first few slides. Okay, and also I want to remind you that there are 10 badges to be earned at this conference, and you can earn them by tweeting, you can earn them by taking pictures at sessions, by sharing out what you've learned at the sessions. So I bet you could earn one of the badges probably just during this session. But, so check that out. Okay, a little bit of,
I have a question. So if you earn them, do you go to this badge list thing?
you go to the badge list, you sign up for a badge as a learner, and then you submit your evidence, and then they award you the badge, and then you can post it on your website, your blog, on Twitter, any other social media.
Okay, great.
Okay, so and this is an idea that I borrowed from my friend Katie McNamara, whose session is going on next door. I wish we could be at both places at once, but anyway. And she suggested that it's a good idea to have a social media business card. So I have these little cards, you can take, but when you're on social media, that doesn't do any good, right? And so this is kind of and I used it for the first time in a recent Twitter chat when it said, introduce yourself. Instead of a lot of text, I posted this picture. So as I said, I'd introduce myself. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about me. I'm a teacher librarian. I was a high school librarian. I'm now in the wild because I retired a year ago last June, but I just can't stop wanting to be involved, to learn, to share, to network with all the wonderful librarians and other people in education and so on. So that I decided to give myself that title. And this last fall, I've added another item. I'm now a part-time instructor at Rutgers University teaching a class on emerging literacies. And trust me, learning as much as the students are, if not more, as we go along. I'm also a Google innovator and trainer, and I urge you to consider getting those, applying for those. We need more librarians doing those, and getting a higher profile within the Google community. Here's some fun pictures. This was me at the Turtles All the Way Down roadshow. I'm also been active in CSLA for some time. I'm a past president and was honored to become an honorary member last conference. And along with my friend Katie next door, I'm a co-founder of CalLib Chat, live chat, and we'll talk about that later. And also Mac and TYSL advocate. So that's more than enough about me, right? Oh, I'm good. I got some books. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to break this session up into kind of 3 parts. 1, social media for you. 2nd, social media for your library and advocacy. And then working time. Okay, working time and sharing out time. So we're going to start with social media for you. So why is being connected so matter so much? And instead of hearing my words right now, I'm going to share with you some words from what I consider, I think, my biggest mentor in the field, Joyce Valenza. So let's just listen to her for a couple of moments.
At a recent conference, a young teacher shared how she nailed her first interview. "You're not just hiring me," she said, "you're hiring all the smart people I know." When I first entered this profession, I met people who hid their best lessons in locked file cabinets. Now I'm happy to say I'm learning from the tweets and posts of nearly everyone in this audience and beyond: librarians, classroom teachers, principals, teacher educators, theorists, and journalists. And so are my students, and so are my teachers. Networks matter, hashtags matter, visitors matter. My students are visited by experts and authors, people like Libba Bray, Cory Doctorow, Lauren Myrick, Lori Halls-Anderson. Our book clubs are connected. Students invite poets in for readings and women's rights advocates. They ask and get copyright permissions via hashtags. My online grad course is connected as a tight community through Google Hangouts. What would I say to an unconnected colleague? I'd say, unlock your cabinet, share. You and your learners will get way more back than you give from all the smart people in the room and beyond.
And I think the way that one of the reasons I got hired at my last job was when I was asked in the interview, one of the questions was, what did I know about, we weren't even on Destiny then, we were on Follett Circ, whatever it was before. And I said, I'm familiar with it because my previous school evaluated it, but I haven't used it. But give me a week, and also if I have any questions, I am very involved in CSLA and AASL, and I have a very large personal learning network. And if I reach out with a question, I'll get an answer right away. So you don't need to worry about, whether I know this particular software. I have, some of the best minds in the nation who can help me with anything I need help with. Thank you. Never wants to advance. Okay, here we go. So to explore this a little further, why does being connected matter? And I went through and made a list of some of the things there. I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but I think these are kind of the highlights, or the most important ones. The world is changing too fast for occasional PD. I mean, it's wonderful coming to conferences like this. I mean, and they're irreplaceable, the face-to-face contact. And if you're lucky enough in your district to get PD, you know, hopefully that is really helpful too. But these days, that isn't enough because things are changing too fast. You can't come to a conference once a year and catch up on everything you need to know. An online network is there anytime you need it. Also, it can connect you with the best minds in our field. By our field, I mean school libraries, but also in other fields too. You know, in education, in technology, in any sort of subject area. Your personal learning network, is fluid and includes the components that you need and also when you need them. And you're not going to get that from live PD, you know. It keeps you alerted whenever there are important new concepts, tools, really anything you need to know about either will pop up, or if you hear about something you don't know what it is, you can go to your network to find out what it is, to ask questions, to develop the expertise you need. Also, having a robust personal learning network can help you avoid that echo chamber of, you know, we're all listening to people who we already know or who already think alike with us. We need to, you know, the last year or so, I think, has convinced everyone that we don't all understand each other's viewpoints, and we need to do that. And if we're just in a closed network, that's not going to happen. If we have an open-ended one by being connected, then we can get those other views and those other insights. Also, our students need to be connected. And if we want our students to be connected, we need to model that connection ourselves. And we don't always need to be ahead of the students, but we need to be right there with them. Learning with them by being connected and modeling that this is what they should be doing, right? To quote Will Richardson, we really want to be found by strangers online now. You know, it used to be that we wanted to be real careful of protecting our identities. And you still can if you are uncomfortable. You don't have to give your full name. You don't have to have your photo out there. But, you know, we used to be so protective and worry about privacy. And of course, privacy is important, and it's very important never to post anything that you aren't comfortable with the whole world knowing and that kind, you know, or hearing. But if we don't connect with people out there in the world, then we're missing things, and often things that we really need to know about. So what is a personal learning network? And it's interesting, and it's, I always thought of PLN as personal learning network, and actually last week my emerging literacies class was doing the connected educator theme, and there's a number of videos and articles and all to read, and I didn't realize that some people call it a professional learning network. So I'm going to go over both with you. So this is from Will Richardson, and these are some of the key points that he has to say, and there's a link. I have a lot of references in here for you to watch or explore later, you know, for more information that we don't have time to do now. But according to him, a personal learning network is that kind of offloaded brain of yours. You know, we can't know everything. We can't absorb, we can't remember everything we do know. But by having a network, we can reach out when we need it and get what needs to be in our brain right now, right? It's powerful anytime PD. It's there when we need it. And what does it consist of? It's people who share common interests. But also, like I said, by having it be an online network, it can be fluid, because right now you may just want teacher librarians. For something else, you may want people who are strong on Google. For something else, you may want people who are strong on, World War II or whatever it is. You can find that network as you need it. And Dan Krutka from Professional Learning Networks, and this is from his video and his site, he calls it a professional learning network. And what he says is it consists of three things: people, who do you connect with, but also spaces, like where do you connect with them? So what would that be? Like, an example, of course, would be Twitter, or it would be a listserv. Or also, it may be more specific, it might be on Twitter using the TL chat hashtag. Or so those are spaces. And tools are, I'm going to read this because I want to get this one right. He calls it anything that helps you do stuff in education. So it might be ideas, educational theories. It could also be, though, specific tools like using Flipgrid or anything else that you use to make the networking happen. So what's the difference between a professional and personal learning network? Well, what I decided is that they really are one and the same, because at least for us, being a librarian is not just a job. To do your job right these days, frankly, it has to be a lot more than a job. It has to be a passion. It has to be a hobby. It has to be, a personal interest as well. So PLN, it's both personal and professional, right? Okay, so now I'm going to go over a couple of what I consider essentials for a PLN, and then some optional ones. And I want to start off by saying that I am not an expert on all these platforms that I'm going to be suggesting to you. One of them is Snapchat. I've had a goal of learning how to use it properly for at least a year, and I think in the last 2 days I've made the most progress I've made in all that time. But I feel justified in the suggestions that I'm going to make to you, both some based on my own personal experience, but also the wisdom that I have gathered over the years from, guess what, my PLN, right? So by me, Twitter for your PLN is an essential. I know that I sent out a survey and some of you responded, and I was trying to get a sense of where people are, and my best take on the ones I heard back from is we're all over the place. Some of you have accounts, some of you don't. Some of you use them, some of you don't. So I'm going to try and make this work for everyone, but please ask questions if you have them. I know one of the questions that came in the survey is that some people are saying Twitter is on its way out. What is my take on that? So my take is it's not going away right now. If it does in the future, I mean, everything's going to change. So who knows in 6 months or a year or 2 years. What I can tell you, though, is as a school librarian, if you are not on Twitter now, I believe you are missing things. When you are at a conference, people will be tweeting, and sometimes the conversation, the back channel on Twitter is almost as valuable as listening to the presenters, because the people who are tweeting about the presenters are reinforcing, and they're also having a conversation around what's going on at the conference. If there is breaking news on something, it's going to show up on Twitter. And there are lots of other platforms, but none of them just don't think there is a single other one that allows for as fluid, as flexible a personal learning network, where you can be accessing the type of people you need when you need them, and as a media. You know, there's wonderful blog posts, there's wonderful articles, but those don't show up immediately. Twitter allows for an immediate conversation. So I know some people are timid about Twitter, but I really want to urge you, if you are, that for your professional life, you need to be on it now, or you are missing some things. So when you get on Twitter, what are some essential things to be doing on it? And here's a list of some of the major hashtags, and I probably left some out, but TL Chat is sort of the granddaddy of school library hashtags. Future Ready Lives came about, in the last year or so, but it's like taken off, you know, and has become very powerful. There's ASL, there's ISTE Live, you know, the librarians within ISTE. There's, of course, this conference. And like I said, if you're on Twitter, which I know some of you are very active on Twitter, please, you know, tweet out as much as you can during the conference. Feel free to tweet out this session. Feel free to tweet out the slides, the link to the slides for this session. That's a nice way of sharing with other people. And I'm going to urge you to please help us grow the CSLA hashtag. It's not used enough. Whenever you post something that's going to be of interest to people in CSLA, add that hashtag. That way people who don't follow you will see it. Also, and it's only going to be a good search tool if a lot of people are using it. And CalUB Chat is the live chat that Katie and I founded. We're doing it the fourth Thursday of the month for a half hour, and we're going to do a special chat during our session on Sunday, kind of a practice one. And if you don't have a Twitter account now, I urge you, I don't mean to be too much of a salesperson, but I urge you to come to our session on Sunday morning at 8 to help you, you know, come up to speed on Twitter. Question? Oh, okay. Also, some people to follow. It's really hard to single out people to follow. So I tried to avoid that, because the minute you do that, you leave out someone like incredibly important, you know. So what I thought I would share with you is, and it is near and dear to my heart, last April during School Library Month, ASL recognized its inaugural group of social media superstars. There were 7 categories: student voice, leadership, social justice, and so on. And these are wonderful people to follow. And there's an article here listing them. And also, we had 3 finalists in each category. And since I was the chair of this task force that did it, I set up a Twitter list of all 21 finalists. And if you go to that link, there's all those people. See, I'm following all of them, but if you're not, you'll see a little blank box here, and you can click follow, follow, follow. Okay, these are all great people to follow. Also, and I have not done a good job of keeping it up of late. At one time, several years ago, I started a list of anyone who is involved, who's on Twitter, who's involved in California school libraries. And if you're not on that list, let me know, and I will add you to it. So, and then of course, those are some ideas for people that you can follow. Not all of them are real active on Twitter, but obviously they all have accounts, or they couldn't have gotten on that list. Another really great way to network and to build your personal learning network is to participate in live chats. And I really urge you to join in the CalUB Chat. Help us grow that. We're getting a lot of good participation from out of state, because we do invite people from everywhere. But the whole point was to make, have a more robust Twitter presence within California. So please join us in that. And also, like, I know that Kat has one for Long Beach Unified. If you're lucky enough to have something like that, participate in that. Or if you don't, maybe you could start one for your district, right? And here's a link to a spreadsheet that will tell you about a number of other chats. And I'm not suggesting you limit that. Pretty much all my examples are school libraries, and please know I'm not encouraging you to limit yourself to school libraries, but I just thought I think that's the easiest place to start, and then branch out to other subjects and so on that matter to you. Okay, so the first essential by me is you really need to be on Twitter. The second essential is you need to be following blogs from some of the thought leaders, and most active people in our field. And yes, you can go to a blog and you can subscribe by email, and then you get, who doesn't already get way too many emails, right? And then, you end up just deleting them because you can't cope with them, if you're me anyway. If you have a blog reader, it will bring the blogs to your feed, and it's easier to follow them that way. And I should be asking as we go along. Actually, let me go back for a moment. How many of you do already have a Twitter account? So about half, okay. How many of you have an RSS feeder for blogs? Okay, good. So most of you during this session, I'm going to be asking you to set one up because it is really the easiest way to keep up with blogs. And let me just show you mine real quick. Mine is not well organized. It is anything but exemplary. But what you do is you set up an account, you say which blogs you want to subscribe to, and you can categorize them. Like I have top library blogs. I don't have bottom library or middle library blogs. Everybody's a top library blog. But I actually caught up with this pretty well recently. That's why I only have a few listed. But see, there's 45 more that haven't done one since I came here. But if I don't get here every day or every week, it sits there and waits for me. And, and frankly, one of the first things I will do is I'll go, is there a post on the Never Ending Search? And yes, there is. And then I will go read that. And I can read it. I can mark it to read later. But anyway, it comes to me instead of my going out to have to find it. And Feedly, as far as I know, Google used to have one and they stopped and got everyone upset a few years ago. The best substitutes that I know, the two that I know of are Feedly and FeedSpot. And they are both free. They both urge you to open a premium account. I haven't done that. I did get the premium features with FeedSpot temporarily. And then I decided, I couldn't keep them both going because they were redundant. So I tried to cancel my account and they said, you have a permanent upgraded account. So now I need to evaluate whether maybe to do that one. But 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Choose one of them and start following blogs with it. And you don't need to do a lot at once, but do a few. And here are some of my suggestions. ASL has a really active blog now. They have posting, like at least one posting a day now, I think. They have a lot of really good bloggers signed up. And one of them is one of our own, Connie Williams, and Kate McMillan. Joyce Valenza's, if I read no other blog, I read hers. She always discovers the new ideas, the new tools. She reports out on the people that she follows, who are thought leaders in the education field or other fields that I don't have time to follow myself. She's just a must read in my opinion. I want to say that at least 80% of the tools that I've found have been because I read about them in her blog. But she doesn't just do tools. She does really new ideas in education and school libraries. I just think she's a must-read. Andy Clemens is an elementary librarian. If you follow one elementary librarian, I would follow him. He does an incredible job with student voice, getting his students to share their voice, and then he amplifies it by putting it on his blog and all his other social networks to get people from all over the world to listen to his students, you know, and they have this, you know, contest where the students are nominating, I think, African American Medal of the Year, and he gets the students to do a report and argue for the person they think should win, and then he gets people like me to go and vote on it. So he just does an amazing job, and even though it's elementary, when I was a high school librarian, I got a lot of my ideas from him. A lot of them are transferable to any age group. Michelle Ludala does wonderful blog posts, mostly. She's really strong on curriculum. Actually, and these people were, Joyce won the social media superstar of the year last year for leadership. Andy did for student voice, Michelle did for curriculum. Jennifer Lagarde does a wonderful job on all sorts of topics in school libraries, books. She's very, very strong on social justice issues. Gwyneth Jones has probably the most attractive visual blog I've ever seen. She is just a master of making her point visually, and she has lots of wonderful ideas. And Nikki Robertson, I'm also a big fan of, she has just all sorts of good ideas all the time. She used to be she's done everything. She used to be high school. Now she retired, and then now she's an elementary librarian in Texas. Okay, so those are like the two musts, I think. You need to be on Twitter. You need to have a blog, an RSS feed for blogs. And then these are some other ones that I'm going to go over briefly. I'm not suggesting that you do all of these. I'm suggesting that maybe you pick up one that you aren't doing now and consider using it. You know, don't overwhelm yourself with all of them. It's not going to work. And some of these I use fairly actively, and some I don't. But as I said, I'm giving you this advice based on my personal experience and that of my PLN. Okay, Facebook, I have to admit, I have a slide for each. So anyway, this is just a highlight, so let's go on. Okay, Facebook. I have to admit, I am not a big fan of Facebook myself. However, there are a lot of really good groups on Facebook, and you are probably going to miss some of the latest postings in the school library world if you don't participate, like in Future Ready Librarians and or LMNet. And then there's some others that are, also good ideas. The reason I'm not as big a fan of it as Twitter is, frankly, they are like closed groups. You're hearing from the people in the group. You're not here, it's not flexible in the way that Twitter is. However, there's a lot of really good posts in these groups. So, I do urge you to have a Facebook account, if only to follow at least, say, one of these groups. And I think if I weren't on any groups now, I think the one I would choose is Future Ready Librarians. And then also, of course, there's pages, CSLA and AASL. And if you're on Facebook, you should be on those so that you get the postings from those. Those are more outgoing rather than interactive. Okay, Instagram. And I have some, Here was a recent article with 15 librarians to follow on Instagram if you want some ideas, and also an article about Instagram. Why is Instagram important? Well, more and more people are using it. Of course, they use it for fun, but are using it professionally. And it, while you can post pictures on Twitter, you can post pictures on Facebook, of course, Instagram was made to be visual. So when you have something visual, it's probably one of the best places to share it. And going, okay, so how, I've already, you're telling me to do a Twitter account, how am I supposed to also post to Instagram? I mean, isn't this a bit much? And yeah, it can be. Fortunately, one of my favorite tools is If This Then That. How many of you have used If This Then That? Okay, basically it's a site that has, they used to call them recipes, now they call them applets. And it's like, here's an example. I have an applet that says, share your Instagram pics as native Twitter photos. So if I post to Instagram, it's gonna go to Twitter. And yes, if you're an Instagram user, there's a little boxes when you post where you can say send to Twitter, send to Facebook and stuff. I'm gonna recommend you not do that. Why? Because if you do that, it just gives a link back to Instagram. And I have to be really keen on following everything one of my buddies I see on Twitter says, to click on that link to go to Instagram to find out what was that posting. Whereas if I use If This Then That, it shows up on Twitter as if I had posted it on Twitter with the picture there. And of course, all the research shows that even on Twitter, the posts that have photos or images are often the most noticed. So what I'm saying is you don't have to make adding Instagram something that takes more time. Because what I will do is if I'm posting something to social media and it's an image, I'm going to post it to Instagram knowing that it's going to Twitter, and I also actually have it set up to go to Facebook. Sometimes I turn them, and you can turn them on and off at will, these applets. But so in other words, it's not taking me more time. If it's a text post, I just do it on Twitter. If it's a visual, I do it on Instagram, and then I have it both places. There is an app that you can get on your phone, or it's a website, which is, and all of these I have, well, I thought I did. I guess I left out the link for this one. It's just ifptt.com. And once you sign up, it will give you a lot of suggestions. And it doesn't work just with Instagram and Twitter. It works with all sorts of things. But I brought it up now because this was sort of the first opportunity to suggest that what you want to do with social media is take advantage of time savers so that you're not duplicating work. As I said, Instagram, I think its strength is it is the most visual. Okay, the other thing I really urge you to do if you haven't already is to start a blog. How many of you have a blog? And we're going to be talking about blogs when we get to using social media for advocacy as well. But some people have a personal blog, some people have a library blog, some people have both. And when I was still working as a high school librarian, I had both. But I've seen it work well any which way. But a blog is the place that you can actually, the best place to post anything that has like, a lot of substance, reflections. Not every post has to be a reflection, but there's really it is the place to share something that is longer, or when you have multiple images, or you want to tell a well worked out story. That's the place to do it. And also, it's one of the best ways to build your network, because once people start reading your blog, it's going to be one of the best ways for them to realize that you're someone they want to communicate with and listen to, right? I've used Google Blogs. I've used EduBlogs. I like both of them. EduBlogs I have very fond of, because it really is just for the educational community. To use it effectively, you probably need to upgrade. But for a personal blog, your own blog, it's not that much. I think it's $40 a year. And Blogger, which is the Google one, of course, is free. And if you're considering, yeah.
So in my school, we can have I have a library page, for our website, that has some blogging capabilities on it. But it's not as, so would you, I guess in terms of getting out, and I guess maybe it's depending on personal, trying to use that to promote things happening in the library, or having a link from
A
that
separate
to
one?
one of the.
Well, see,
And no one does it, any of them right now do
then
it.
it's a matter of preference.
Right.
But right now, we're still talking about your personal learning
Okay.
network. I would urge you to do a separate one.
Okay.
You may not be there forever.
Okay.
And then you'll still have, and yes, you could start a new one, but I would urge you to do it separately, and and if you want to link it. And also, as far as I know, with all the blogging options on the various website options, none of them are as robust as the separate blog ones. Actually, the most robust, as far as I know, is WordPress. And the nice thing about EduBlogs is it's built on WordPress. If you're thinking about starting a blog and you don't already have one, go to EduBlogs. Has a lot of like little sort of mini courses that you can, self-paced courses you can do. They used to have a teacher challenge twice a year. I don't think they do that anymore. They have one for students though. But you'll get a lot of information there, and, ideas of what to post about too. Okay, Google Plus. It never caught on the way that, they wanted to outdo Twitter, and they've never succeeded in doing that. But it is one to consider, if only because there's a couple of good groups out there. I know TL Chat, Global TL Communities. If you're into Google and technology, the EdTech team has probably one of the most robust ones. I probably should have put that on there. So if you don't have a Google Plus account, I don't think I would pick this one. But if you do, I would add yourself to those communities. Yeah.
What is a Google?
Will you go to plus.google.com, and they have communities that you can join. Yeah, Kat?
So our district just did that as a library. Our Crystal had, and because we had done Google Apps for Education, so we had a classroom. But then there's just the teachers that are in charge. There's posting restrictions. Like with Google Plus, what is nice is that all of the teachers from our district can then post in there. So it was a nice way to bring all of the TLs together in a smaller knit community.
Yeah. Thank you, Kat. Yeah, that's a great example. Actually, when for the last ASL conference, we had a Not at ASL, and we set up a Google Plus community for that, because you can have conversations that are longer than Twitter ones. You could have a Facebook group. Google Plus is a good place to be. Yeah.
I don't know, we're also school as a USD, and we were told that once we retire, we only have 2 weeks or and maybe up to a month, and then they close your account. Because if I'm on these blogs, does my blog go to, it's attached to my, it does? So then I guess we should have another.
Yeah, that's why I would actually urge you to have a Google account that is you,
So I
and not with your district.
Right.
And I had Google. So everything that was in the
Just
drive,
gone.
everything
That's what I just read.
Mm.
was, once they deleted that account. So I shared it with myself to my personal, everything that was in my drive, I had to share with my personal account. Access to it when I left.
There's also
Yeah.
a way,
Yeah, I mean, that was just my
there's
quick,
also
like,
a way you do, sorry, for some reason, you need like your district's, you need left. There's a way you can actually download every single thing you put, into the thing, share everything, and download it to your computer. And I just did a massive download, and then I uploaded the whole thing over.
And network with each other and get, one thing I always say, my sessions come with lifetime tech support, but also we have, the smartest person in the room, remember, is the room, and seek each other out for help with these things. Because
Our students
Yeah,
are into this.
yeah,
That's why
yeah.
I've seen
And-
it, even 2 weeks later, they
and-
shut up
yeah.
their accounts, so I've been
Yeah.
downloading.
Yeah, so get help from Sarah on that. Thank you. I'm going to rush ahead because I've got way too much material and we need time for the working sessions. So, webinars. Webinars aren't really social media as such. The reason I put them in is by attending webinars, you get a lot of good, hour dose of PD, and it's often a good place to meet people. Like when you're in a Twitter chat, you find people to follow. When you're in a webinar and people are making comments, that's a good place to find people to follow. I love Michelle Ludala's monthly Emerging Tech, and here's some other ideas. And I have a link to the EdWeb one. Goodreads is of course very specific. It's for books, but it's a great way to track your own books. And also, if you're a little timid on sharing on social media, it feels, I think, a little less threatening because it is a community just of people talking about books and not other things. And when you share your reviews, you can friend people on Goodreads. It's kind of like Facebook for books, I think. And I like it, and I love keeping track of my books. LinkedIn, I put this here because I figured if I didn't, someone would ask me, yeah, you probably should have a LinkedIn account, but I have one. I don't do anything with it. I think the main thing it's good for is if you're looking for a job, so have it, but don't count it as one of the networks that you add. Because it's just, that really is its main point. Yeah, it's a good place to have where you went, your education, where you worked, and like I said, if you're ever looking for a job, that might be a good place. Okay, rushing on. Social media for library advocacy. So why is this important? Well, basically, odds are no one's going to tell your library story unless you do. And no one can lead advocacy for your library as well as you can. Yes, you want to get help, but you are the leader. You need to be, press the start button at least and make sure it keeps going. And you really need to document all the good things that you do. Also by posting on social media, then you're amplifying your voice and other people will help you carry it forward. You don't have to do it alone, but you got to get it out there before other people can help you, right? And again, we need to be modeling for our students. So first steps in school library advocacy. Well, first of all, you have to know your district's policies. And I know I was fortunate, I was in a district where it wasn't much of an issue. For some, it's a big time issue. And all I can say, I am not the expert on advice on this other than to say, if your district is restricting you, you need to advocate, advocate, advocate to get them to stop restricting, have a lot of good reasons, show examples of districts that are using it, like Long Beach Unified has a wonderful Twitter chat. If you're keeping us off Twitter, you're depriving us of professional development, things like that. And also in terms of the students, it's like, you're not going to teach your kids how to behave in public if you don't let them out in public. So you need to have arguments if your district is restricting you. And that's really all I have to offer on it, I'm afraid. But it's important that you advocate to change it if you're having problems. You need to know who your stakeholders are. And basically, they're going to be all of these people: students, parents, teachers, administrators, school board, community. Okay? And you want to know what platforms your stakeholders are on, and then reach out to them where they are. Like, one of my teacher colleagues at MiraCosta had all his messages for his media class on Facebook. He said, I go where the eyeballs are. So that's where he posted everything, right? So where are they? Well, and neither of these are, I have one on adults and one on teens. Neither of these are entirely up to date. You know how fast things change, but basically the majority of adults are on Facebook. So I don't love Facebook, but if I want to reach adults in my district or my school, I need to be posting on Facebook. Instagram is next, then Pinterest, then LinkedIn, than Twitter. Twitter is down the list, but so I'm not going to push it for advocacy as much. But remember, I said in my opinion, it's essential for your personal learning network. And then what about your teens? If you're, how many of you are secondary and up? So about half and half. If you're you want to be where your students are. I don't have research on younger kids, but this was from Pew in 2015. Kids are still on Facebook. I think this is going to be probably shifted to more Instagram, more Snapchat. I don't know about Twitter. Google Plus, I think Vine isn't even around anymore. But obviously you need to be those places. So if you don't know, so take advantage of those surveys, but also ask your people, ask them when they drop into the library. Set up a Google survey so you know what platforms they're on so that you can be posting on those platforms. So what do I consider essentials for your library advocacy? I'm going to say a robust website. How many of you have a website? I have to tell you, and maybe I'm biased, the first thing I want to do when I want to find out something about a librarian who I saw on Twitter or met or something, I go find their library website. And if I can't find it, and a lot of times you can't, you're missing this opportunity to be advocating for your library. Your library program needs to be out there, visible, transparent. And how best are you going to do that? But with a website. And it can be a separate one. I'm not going to take the time to go to the links, but Reedy High School, Nancy Jo Lambert in Texas has one where she set it up on another site. This is my archive site, which is not so great anymore. I mean, I just sort of froze it when I left, but you'll see what I did. New Canaan High School, that's Michelle Ludala. Hers is built within the school website, and that can work if your school website is robust enough. I kind of like doing a separate one. Obviously, you have to get permission to do a separate one, but you want to have everything you can share about your library on your website. Also, I think you need a blog documenting what you do. I got this advice from Nikki Robertson several years ago. She would do a post every week about what she did in her library. And she said, I think, I didn't do that much. And then she'd start to write her posts and gee, we did a lot. And once it's out there, it is a record. And the nice thing about a blog is that it can reach all of those, stakeholders I mentioned. you know, your parents, your administrators. My principal wouldn't read my reports that I did from conferences, so I posted on my blog, and even if he wouldn't read it, you know, and then I'd send him a link, even if he wouldn't read it, my vice principal read it. Some of my parents read it. Frankly, my parents, you know how they read it on Facebook, because I set up, you know, a formula so that everything on my blog went to Facebook. And frankly, that's where a lot of people saw it, but I had that record. And I really think you need that. Then in addition to the website and the blog, here's what I'm going to suggest, some other options to consider. I think you need to be on Facebook, whether you like it or not, you know, even if you don't love it like I don't. You need to have a page for your library. And what you can do is you can feed it, you take advantage of this and that to feed it from other sources. And here's just some examples of some, you know, applets that you can use. And here, for each of these, I've given you some examples of people who are doing this that you can look at for ideas, how, you know, what they're posting and how it's working for them. Instagram, I think, again, you know, like when I was in my library, if I was posting something that was a picture, I'd do it to Instagram, and I'd have it go to Twitter, I'd have it go to the Facebook page, so on. Here are some good examples of people to follow. Also, there's some great posts out there and with the Bookstagram hashtag. Hashtags work on Instagram the way that they do, pretty much the way they do on Twitter.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So do you tell me your Facebook? I mean, do you have if you had your own private Facebook, then would you also have your professional Facebook? So you're not something you have.
I didn't use Facebook that much. So yeah, yes. Yeah. If you just, you know, you can be a member of a group, you know, without people friending people, but yes, you should have a separate Facebook account. I wouldn't see, I don't know. If you do a lot of social on Facebook, you might even need 3 accounts. You might want a personal one just for fun stuff. You might want a personal professional one, you as a school librarian, but then you definitely want a separate one for your school. So the first 2, you may or may not want to separate for your school. I would say absolutely. And probably for all these other things too. Yeah, you want different accounts for your school. Also remember, you may not be there forever, you know. Pinterest is really more of a curation tool, but there's lots and lots of good ideas out there, and especially if you're into visual and your students are, this would be a good place to share, you know, curate tools and resources and so on for them in a way that might be a lot more attractive than, you know, like basically my Pathfinders were pretty much text links. They were kind of boring. If I had thought, if I had it to do over again, I think I might have chosen a tool like Pinterest to post a lot of resources. Okay, Twitter, as I said, is not used as much. You know, we saw by students or even adults, but I think it's worthwhile having a school Twitter account. And like I said, if you have like an Instagram one, you can multitask. Also, if you're using Twitter and you have more than one account, because you're going to have your own and you're going to have, you know, a school one, you can multitask by using TweetDeck, because you can set up multiple accounts on TweetDeck. And then, like, sometimes I would post something just from my personal account. Sometimes I'd post from my school account, and sometimes I'd want to post from both. And I could do that simultaneously. Snapchat is, as I said, that's been on my goal list, and I think I finally conquered some of my confusion. My daughter told me, Mom, you've got to swipe. You swipe left to do the personal messages, right to do the public stories. And we can spend, I don't have time to do it now, we could spend some time playing with Snapchat if you'd like during the conference. But if you have teenagers and above, I urge you to get on Snapchat. That's where they are, so many of them. That's where they have a lot of fun, and you want to be in there. It's probably one of the most lively of the networks. And that's why I'd urge you to do it. Plus, it allows you to do all kinds of fun graphics. Like I just learned about doing book snaps, and I created that one. And I learned how to make a sticker. I took a picture of the book cover, and I learned how to make a sticker of it that I could add to other posts. And the thing is, even if you're not big on posting on Snapchat, think of it as a graphic design tool, because you can save your snaps and then you can post them on Instagram or on Twitter or on your website or whatever. So, and here's some links to some help on using Snapchat. So like, as I said, I don't know, maybe not with the younger kids, although Nikki Robertson is in an elementary school now and she has a Snapchat account. But you know, they're supposed to be 13 and up to use it. If you have teenagers, do yourself a favor and start exploring Snapchat, and we can learn together, okay? YouTube, I think it's really the reason I urge that is because it's, you know, the document. If you're doing a lesson, record it and save it so that people who, you know, missed the class can refer to it. If you have a special event with a presenter, like an author, record it and put it on your YouTube channel, and you have resources people can refer to, and also a robust record of all the wonderful things that you do. Here's some links to the Somewhat Virtual Book Club I'm involved in. We meet once a month and we record our sessions, and sometimes we have authors there. And some of it's so that our members can go back and see it later, and some of it is that it's great advocacy for the school library community in general that we have these recordings of these student discussions that involve authors. Okay, so we're running a little late. But the next thing we're going to do is we have 3 breakout sessions, because I want you to go away not just with ideas, but with an action, some progress on some of the things we've talked about, and an action plan of what you're going to do going forward. So I said 15 minutes for each. I'm going to cut you off a little faster, I think, so we have time to share out. But what I'd like you to do now is go to this link. If you've got the slideshow open, just click on it. If you don't, go to that link. And what it's going to do is ask you to make a copy of this document. So in other words, you will have your own copy, all right? I'm going to put it back here so you can see the link. And what we're going to do for the first segment is I'm going to ask you, if you don't have a Twitter account, to start one. Do you want to start one for yourself, or do you want to start one for your school? I really think, in my opinion, you should have separate ones. But if you don't have one, I would start with a personal professional Twitter account first, and then do your school after you kind of come up to speed on it a little bit. So if you don't, for the first 15 minutes, or I think we'll make it more like 12, 10 or 12 minutes, I want you to open up a Twitter account if you don't have one. If you have one, I want you to design a business card like the one that I did. And you don't have to get it all done, but get it started. And you can use Bunchy if you're into Bunchy. Katie suggested Bunchy to me because she loves all the stickers. I haven't gotten into that as much, but that's an option. A really easy one is the link to using Google Drawings. And that's what I use to create mine, or I also love Canva. So you want to have a business card, you know, and then say as a graphic that you can post next time you go on Twitter and you have for a Twitter chat, or next time you introduce yourself in a Facebook group or something. Okay? Now, so let's get started.
And you're just impressive.
Thank you. The thing is, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And I'll probably change it up some. But, and if you'd like to find a partner to kind of work with, that's fine, but you each want to do your own. And so that's why I didn't decide that you must partner off. But you might want to, let's see, it looks like we've got 2 at most every table. 3 back there. Maybe do one if you want to come up, and so you can kind of compare notes as you're going with Sue. And what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you to do that, and then we're going to take a couple of minutes just to do a share out of insights, questions, so on. And then just to give you a heads up, the second segment, we're going to do a blog reader if you don't have one, and if you have one, you're going to take the time to set up a new platform. And then for the third breakout, you're going to do an action plan of what, I'm not asking you to add all of these platforms by any means, but maybe one that you've chosen that you want to work on for you, maybe one that you decide you want to try working on for your school advocacy. But we'll get to that at the end. Right now, it's create a Twitter account, or if you have a Twitter account, do a business card. And if anyone has an issue doing either one, let me know and we'll work something else out.
What did you use to create yours?
I did mine with Google Drawings. I love Canva. I thought Google Drawings was probably one of the easiest ones because everybody's got a Google account. You don't need to set up an account. And if you go to, if you click on the one that says template, I've sized it right for you. So that what I did is I made it, now it's true the sizes are different on social media. Snapchat is long and narrow and others are landscape. I sized it to be optimal for Twitter. So you can go to this and you can just start on this one. That would be the easiest one, okay? And let me know if you have questions, okay? And I've been doing, like I said, this is a hangout. We're not going to record the rest of it, so bear with me. I'm going to go stop the hangout for a minute. So if you're watching, thanks for attending. And we'll do, we'll post some information from the share out later.